3 hours after the last shovel of dirt hit my son's casket, his favorite colleague called me. "Mr. Wolf," she whispered, her voice trembling with terror. "I found something in Tyler's locker. You need to come to the school right now. Do not tell your wife. Do not tell his widow. You are in danger." I thought I had no tears left, but when I walked into that storage room and saw who was standing in the shadows, my heart stopped beating. My name is Conrad Wolf. I am 71 years old, and until this morning I thought I had buried my entire world. The sound of the earth hitting the mahogany lid of the casket was the only honest thing about today. Thud, thud, thud. It was the sound of finality, the rhythm of a life ending too soon. Tyler was 38, a gym teacher, a good man who they said slammed his sedan into a highway divider because he was drunk. But as I stood there gripping the cold brass handle of my cane, watching the soil cover my boy, I felt a hand on my elbow. It wasn't a hand offering comfort. It was a claw. I looked down. Monica, my daughter-in-law, was checking her diamond-encrusted watch. She wasn't crying. Her mascara was perfect. Her black dress was tailored to show off her figure, not her grief. "Dad, we need to handle the paperwork," she whispered not 5 minutes after the priest had finished his prayer. The guests were still walking back to their cars. My wife Beverly stood on the other side of me. She dabbed at her dry eyes with a lace handkerchief, performing the role of the grieving stepmother for the neighbors. Monica shoved a clipboard between us, blocking my view of the grave. "It is the power of attorney for the insurance," she said, her voice dropping to a hiss so the pastor wouldn't hear. "Tyler's policy requires immediate processing. You are the primary beneficiary, Dad, but you are grieving. You are confused. Just sign here and I will handle the claims. I will pay off his debts." I looked at the paper. The letters swam before my eyes, but my mind was sharper than a fresh saw blade. I built skyscrapers in Seattle. I managed crews of 200 tough men. I knew a hustle when I saw one. Tyler had a $3 million life insurance policy, a perk from his previous corporate job, before he decided to teach. He had made me the beneficiary years ago, specifically excluding Monica. He never told me why, but the panic in her eyes told me she knew. "I don't have my reading glasses, Monica," I said, letting my hand tremble intentionally. I let the pen slip from my fingers and fall into the mud. "Oh, for goodness sake, Conrad," Beverly snapped from my left. "Just sign it. Monica is trying to help you. You know how you get with numbers lately. You mix everything up." They were doing it right there, right over my son's dead body. They were building the narrative. Conrad the old fool. Conrad the senile builder. Conrad who needs 2 capable women to manage his empire. "I am not signing anything in a cemetery," I said, keeping my voice low and raspy. "My head hurts. Take me home." Monica bent down to pick up the pen, her nails digging into the mud. When she stood up, her face was twisted in a mask of pure hatred. It vanished in a second, replaced by a look of concern as a neighbor walked past. "Of course, Dad," she said loudly. "Let's get you home to rest. You look so frail." The ride home was silent. I sat in the back of the limousine looking at the back of their heads. They didn't speak to me. They texted each other. I could see the reflection of their phones in the glass partition. Monica typing furiously, Beverly nodding. They were replanning. I had stalled them, but they were sharks, and they smelled blood in the water. I closed my eyes and thought about Tyler. They said he was drunk. My son hadn't touched a drop of alcohol in 10 years, not since he took that health pledge for his students. The autopsy report Monica had waved in my face earlier said his blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. When the limo pulled up to the driveway of the house I had built with my own hands 40 years ago and I saw the black bags, there were 6 of them piled up by the curb like trash on collection day. "What is this?" Stepping out of the car, My legs felt heavy, not from age, but from the weight of the betrayal I could feel pressing down on me. Beverly walked past me, unlocking the front door. "We are just clearing out the clutter, Conrad. It is bad energy to keep a dead man's things." I walked over to the bags. I untied the top one. Inside was Tyler's baseball glove, his collection of vintage records, the framed photo of us fishing in Alaska when he was 12. They weren't donating his things. They were erasing him. "You threw his life in the garbage," I shouted, my voice cracking. "He isn't even cold yet." Monica stood on the porch, kicking off her heels. "Dad, stop making a scene. We need the space. That room has the best light in the house. I am going to turn it into my yoga studio. I need a place to decompress. Dealing with you and Tyler has been exhausting." A yoga studio. My son's sanctuary, the room where he graded papers and built model airplanes, was going to be a yoga studio for the woman who didn't shed a single tear at his funeral. I felt a surge of rage so hot it almost blinded me. I gripped my cane, ready to storm up those stairs and tear the house down beam by beam if I had to. I was a contractor. I knew how to destroy as well as I knew how to build. But before I could take a step, my phone buzzed in my breast pocket. I pulled it out. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I wanted to scream at Beverly, but something, maybe Tyler's spirit, told me to press the green button. "Hello?" I grunted, my eyes locked on Beverly's smirk. "Mr. Wolf," a woman's voice whispered. It was urgent, terrified. "This is Mrs. Higgins. I teach history down the hall from Tyler's gym." "I remember you," I said, turning my back to the house so the women wouldn't see my face. "You sent the flowers." "Sir, listen to me carefully," she said. "I was clearing out the faculty lockers today. The principal told us to empty Tyler's things immediately. I found something taped to the back of his bottom shelf. It is a notebook. And something else." What kind of something else?" I asked. "I cannot say over the phone," Mrs. Higgins said, "but you need to come here. Now. The school is empty. I am at the back entrance near the gymnasium. Please, Mr. Wolf, do not tell your wife. Do not tell his wife. If they knew what I have, I think they would hurt me. I think they hurt Tyler." The line went dead. I stood there on the lawn, the phone cold against my ear. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a jackhammer. They hurt Tyler. It wasn't an accident. "Conrad, come inside," Beverly called out from the doorway. "You need your medicine. You are getting flushed." I turned around. I forced my shoulders to slump. I let my mouth hang open slightly. I put on the mask of the confused old man they wanted me to be. I need aspirin," I stammered. "The strong kind." "We are out. I am going to the pharmacy." "I have aspirin here," Monica said, stepping forward. "No," I said, shaking my head like a stubborn child. "I want the brand I like. The red bottle. I am going to drive to the corner store." "You shouldn't be driving," Beverly said, her eyes narrowing. "It is 2 blocks, Beverly," I snapped, letting a bit of my old temper leak out. "Let me have 5 minutes of peace to buy my pills. Or do I need your permission to breathe too?" "Go," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "But be back in 20 minutes. The lawyer is coming over to help you with the paperwork since you were too emotional at the cemetery." I got into my truck. It was a heavy-duty Ford, a relic from my building days. I backed out of the driveway, watching them watch me. As soon as I turned the corner, I floored it. I didn't go to the pharmacy. I drove toward the high school on the other side of town. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Tyler had been terrified of something for months. He had lost weight. He had stopped coming to Sunday dinners. He told me he was just stressed with grading, but I knew. A father knows. I had let him push me away because I thought he needed space. I should have grabbed him. I should have asked. I pulled into the back lot of the high school. It was deserted. The gray sky hung low over the brick building. I saw Mrs. Higgins standing by the metal door of the gym. She was wearing a trench coat, looking over her shoulder. I parked and got out. I moved as fast as my bad hip would allow. "Mrs. Higgins," I said. She didn't speak. She just opened the heavy metal door and motioned for me to follow. We walked past the smell of floor wax and old sweat, past the trophy case where Tyler's picture was already taped up with a black ribbon. We went into the equipment storage room. It was dark, smelling of rubber and dust. She turned on a single dim bulb hanging from the ceiling. "Mr. Wolf," she said, her voice shaking. "Tyler wasn't just a colleague. He was my best friend. He told me if anything ever happened to him, I should check the false bottom of his locker." She handed me a leather-bound journal. But that wasn't all. I looked around the small room. In the corner, sitting on a stack of tumbling mats, was a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 30. She had dark hair and frightened eyes, and in her arms she was holding a toddler, a boy, maybe 2 years old. The woman looked up at me. She was trembling. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The woman stood up. She walked into the circle of light. She turned the little boy toward me. I gasped. The air left my lungs. The boy had Tyler's chin. He had Tyler's nose. And he had my eyes. The distinct steel-gray eyes that every wolf man had possessed for generations. "Mr. Wolf," the young woman said, "I am Sarah. And this is Leo, Tyler's son." I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. A grandson. I had a grandson. "Tyler wanted to tell you," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "He wanted to tell you for 2 years. But Monica found out. She threatened him. She said if he ever introduced Leo to you, she would make sure Tyler went to prison for embezzlement." "Embezzlement?" I asked. "Tyler never stole a dime in his life." "He didn't," Sarah said. "Beverly did. Your wife. She took out loans in Tyler's name. Huge ones. She forged his signature. Monica found the paperwork and used it to blackmail him. They trapped him, Mr. Wolf. They were bleeding him dry. And when he told them he was going to go to the police and expose everything," she stopped. She looked down at the diary in my hand. "Read the last entry," she whispered. I opened the book. The handwriting was messy, rushed. It was dated the day he died. "They know I am going to the lawyer tomorrow. Monica changed my pills this morning. I feel dizzy. I think they did something to the car. If I don't make it, tell Dad about Sarah. Tell Dad about Leo. Don't let them win." I looked up from the page. The room was spinning. My wife and my daughter-in-law. They hadn't just watched him die. They had orchestrated it. The alcohol in his system wasn't liquor. It was something else. They had drugged him and cut the brakes. I looked at the little boy. Leo. He reached out a chubby hand toward me. I dropped my cane. I stepped forward and took the boy's hand. It was warm. It was alive. It was the only thing in the world that mattered. "You need to hide," I told Sarah. My voice sounded strange, like grinding stones. "I have nowhere to go," she said. "Tyler was paying for our apartment. Monica stopped the payments this morning. She evicted us an hour ago. She sent a message saying the bastard doesn't get a dime." The rage that filled me then was cold. It was the cold, calculating rage of a man who is about to burn the world down to save what is his. "You are not going anywhere," I said. "You are going to stay at the old motel on Route 9. I own it. It is closed for renovations, but the manager is my old foreman. He will guard you with his life." I took out my wallet and gave her all the cash I had withdrawn for the pharmacy. "Go there. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me or a man named Blackwood." "Who is Blackwood?" Mrs. Higgins asked. He is my lawyer, I said, and he is the only man in this city who hates my wife as much as I do right now. I looked at my grandson one last time. I saw Tyler in him. I saw the future. They think I am a senile old man, I said, clutching the diary. They think they buried the last wolf today. They are wrong. I turned to Mrs. Higgins. Thank you. You just saved my life. I walked back to my truck. The grief was gone. The sadness was gone, replaced by a mission. I checked my watch. 20 minutes had passed. I had to go back. I had to go back into that house with the women who murdered my son. I had to look them in the eye. I had to pretend I was weak. I had to pretend I was confused. Because if they knew, I knew I would be dead by morning. And I couldn't die yet. Not until I destroyed them. Not until I took back every single penny and left them rotting in a cell. I started the engine. I put the truck in gear. It's showtime, I whispered. I drove back toward the house, practicing my trembling hands on the steering wheel. I was about to give the performance of a lifetime. The leather cover of the journal was warm from being pressed against Sarah's chest. My hands, usually steady enough to frame a house in a gale, were trembling so violently I could barely turn the first page. The single light bulb above us buzzed like an angry insect, casting long, dancing shadows against the shelves of basketballs and gym mats. I looked at the little boy again. Leo. He was staring at me with a curiosity that shattered me. He did not know his father was dead. He did not know his grandfather had been blind to his existence for 2 years. He reached out and grabbed my thumb. His grip was strong. A wolf grip. Sarah wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her oversized sweater. You have to read the entry from last month, she whispered, her voice sounding thin and brittle in the stale air of the storage room. The one marked with the red tab. It explains why he was so tired. Why he crashed. I flipped to the page. Tyler's handwriting, usually a precise block print I had taught him when he was 6, was scrawled and erratic. The ink was smeared in places, as if he had been sweating while he wrote. August 15th. Monica made me a protein shake this morning. She stood there and watched me drink it. She smiled that smile that never touches her eyes. 20 minutes later, my legs felt like they were filled with concrete. I could barely focus on the road to school. I almost ran a red light. This is the 3rd time this week. I found the bottle in the trash. Alprazolam. She is grinding them up. She is drugging me. She wants me compliant. She wants me too weak to fight back. I looked up from the page, a wave of nausea rolling through my gut. They said he was drunk. The police report the autopsy, the whispers at the funeral. Everyone said Tyler Wolf, the man who preached clean living to his students, had driven drunk. It was a lie. A meticulously crafted lie. They had been poisoning him, slowly, methodically, turning a strong man into a zombie so they could control him. Why didn't he go to the police, I asked, my voice sounding like gravel grinding together. Why didn't he tell me? I would have torn that house apart. I would have thrown Monica out on the street. Sarah shook her head, a fresh tear tracking through the dust on her cheek. He couldn't, Mr. Wolf. They had him trapped. It wasn't just the drugs. It was the debt. Debt, I snapped. Tyler had a good salary. I paid off his student loans 10 years ago. He didn't have debt. He didn't, Sarah said, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. Beverly did. I froze. My wife. The woman who was currently at my house accepting casseroles and condolences from the neighbors. The woman I had married after Tyler's mother died, thinking she would bring warmth back into our lives. Turn to the back of the book, Sarah said. The pocket inside the cover. I reached into the back of the journal and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a photocopy of a loan agreement, A high-risk business loan from a private lender in Seattle. $500,000. The borrower was listed as Tyler Wolf. The signature was his. But as I looked closer, squinting in the dim light, I saw the hesitation in the ink, the slight tremor in the loop of the Y. It was a forgery. A good one, but a forgery. I knew my son's hand. I knew my wife's hand. Beverly took this out 3 years ago, Sarah explained. She has a gambling problem, Mr. Wolf. Online poker, high stakes. She lost everything, her savings, her retirement. When she ran out of her own money, she started stealing his identity. She forged his name on loans. She opened credit cards. She racked up $500,000 in debt under Tyler's name. The rage that hit me was cold and absolute. It started in my toes and froze my veins all the way to my heart. I had been living with a viper. I had been sleeping next to a woman who was financially cannibalizing my son. Monica found out, Sarah continued. She found the statements. Instead of helping him, she used it. She told Tyler that if he tried to leave her, if he tried to divorce her, to be with me, she would turn the documents over to the police. She said she would testify that Tyler took the money himself. She said she would ruin his reputation. He would lose his teaching license. He would go to prison for fraud. She held it over his head like an axe. I looked back at the diary. The entry from 6 months ago. Mom Beverly came to me crying today. She said the lenders are threatening to break her legs. She begged me not to tell Dad. She said it would kill him. She said his heart couldn't take it. So I took the blame. Again. I am drowning. I am working extra shifts just to pay the interest on her gambling debts. Monica laughs at me. She calls me a coward. Maybe I am, but I can't let them hurt Dad. I slammed the book shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the small room. He was protecting me. My boy was protecting me. He endured the drugging, the blackmail, the emotional torture, all because he thought I was too old and weak to handle the truth. He thought a broken heart would kill me. He was wrong. Heartbreak doesn't kill you. It hollows you out. It scrapes away all the softness, all the mercy, and leaves only the hard, jagged bones of vengeance. I looked at Leo. He was getting restless, squirming in Sarah's arms. He made a small sound, a gurgle that sounded exactly like Tyler when he was that age. I reached out and touched his cheek. His skin was soft, warm, alive. They took my son, I whispered, but they gave me a grandson, and they made a fatal mistake. What mistake? Sarah asked, her eyes wide with fear. They left me alive, I said. I put the diary into the inside pocket of my suit jacket right next to my heart. It felt heavy like a lead weight. This book was my Bible now. It was my warrant. It was the fuel for the fire I was about to light. Sarah, listen to me, I said, my voice steady and commanding. The man I was 3 hours ago is dead. He died at that graveside. You are looking at the man who is going to destroy them. But I need time. I need them to think they have won. I pulled a money clip from my pocket. It was thick with cash. I always carried cash, old habits from the construction site. Take this. Go to the motel I told you about. Room 4. It is the one at the back near the woods. Park your car around the side. Do not use your credit cards. Do not turn on your phone. If Monica tracks you, she will try to use Leo to get to me. I will not let that happen. Sarah took the money. Her hands were shaking. You are going back there, aren't you, to the house? I have to, I said. I have to play the part. I have to be the grieving, confused old father. I have to sign their papers. I have to let them think they have stripped me clean. Because when they think I am nothing, they will get careless. And when they get careless, I will strike. I looked at the diary one last time before buttoning my jacket. I saw the entry about the sedatives, about the heavy legs, about the blurred vision. I remembered how Monica had insisted on driving me to the funeral today, how she had handed me a bottle of water before we left, how she had watched me drink it. They are trying to do it to me, too, I realized. The sudden fatigue I had felt all week. The fog in my brain that I attributed to grief. It wasn't grief, it was chemistry. I am going to get you justice, Tyler, I whispered to the empty air. I turned to Sarah. Go. Now. Drive safe. She nodded, pulled the blanket tighter around Leo, and slipped out the back door into the gray afternoon. I watched them go. My secret family. My second chance. I stood alone in the dark room for a moment. I adjusted my tie. I smoothed my hair. I practiced my slump. I practiced the vacant look in my eyes. I needed to look like a victim. I needed to look like prey. I walked out of the school, leaving the ghost of my son behind, and walked toward my truck. I was driving back to a house filled with snakes. But they didn't know that the gardener had just bought a machete. The drive back was a blur of red rage, but by the time I pulled into the driveway, I was Conrad the old fool again. I saw Beverly looking out the window. She was watching, waiting. I took a deep breath. I let my hands shake. I opened the door. I am home, I called out, my voice cracking perfectly. It was time for the performance of my life. The gravel of the driveway crunched under the tires of my truck, sounding like bones breaking in the silence of the afternoon. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, until my knuckles turned white, staring at the house I had built 30 years ago. It used to be a home. Now it was a stage, and I was about to deliver the performance of my life. I felt the weight of Tyler's journal against my ribs, burning through my shirt like a brand. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I ruffled my hair, making it look unkempt. I let my jaw go slack. I practiced the vacant, watery stare of a man whose mind was drifting away like smoke. I opened the front door. The air inside was stifling, smelling of lilies and expensive perfume. Beverly and Monica were sitting at the dining room table. They weren't grieving. They were working. Papers were spread out across the mahogany surface, insurance forms, bank statements, deed transfers. They looked up as I shuffled in, dragging my left foot slightly. A new affectation I decided to add to my repertoire. You were gone a long time, Conrad, Beverly said, her voice sharp. She didn't ask where I went. She didn't care as long as I came back to sign the checks. I got lost, I mumbled, looking past her at the wall. I turned left at the light, but the street names, they were all wrong. I couldn't find the pharmacy. Monica exchanged a quick, triumphant glance with Beverly. It was subtle, but I saw it. The look of a predator realizing the prey is already wounded. Sit down, Dad, Monica said, patting the chair next to her. We have news. Bad news, I am afraid. But you need to see this. I sat down heavily, letting my cane clatter against the table leg. Monica slid a piece of paper toward me. It was on official letterhead from the county coroner's office. Or at least it looked official to anyone who didn't know it. Monica's cousin worked in the records department. The toxicology report came back, Monica said, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. Dad Tyler was drunk. Severely drunk. His blood alcohol level was .24. That is 3 times the legal limit. I stared at the paper. The numbers were bold and black. Lies. All lies. Tyler hadn't touched a drop since he was 28. The journal in my pocket said they had been slipping sedatives into his protein shakes. Alprazolam. Not alcohol. They had forged this to ruin his name, to invalidate the insurance clauses that might pay out to his estate rather than them, and to break my spirit. He doesn't drink. I stammered, my voice weak. He promised me. He promised his mother. He lied to you, Conrad, Beverly said, reaching out to cover my hand with hers. Her skin felt cold. He was a closet drinker. We found bottles in the garage. vodka, whiskey. He was out of control. It was only a matter of time before he killed someone. Thank God he only killed himself. The rage rose in my throat, hot and acrid. I wanted to grab her wrist and squeeze until I felt the bones snap. I wanted to scream that I knew about her gambling debts, about the $500,000 she stole from my son. But I forced the bile down. I forced my eyes to fill with tears. "My boy," I whispered. "My poor boy." Monica pushed a pen into my hand. "It is tragic, Dad. But we have to protect his legacy. We have to pay off the damages he caused to the city infrastructure when he crashed. If you sign this power of attorney, I can handle the lawsuits. I can make sure they don't take the house." I looked at the pen. Then I looked at the glass of water sitting on a coaster near Beverly's elbow. "I am thirsty," I croaked. Beverly sighed, annoyed by the interruption, but she pushed the glass toward me. "Drink it, then sign." I reached for the glass. I let my hand tremble. Not a little shake, but the violent rhythmic tremor of a man whose nervous system is misfiring. My fingers brushed the cold glass. I gripped it, lifted it 2 inches off the table, and then let my hand spasm. The glass slipped. It hit the edge of the table and shattered. Water sprayed across the insurance papers. Shards of glass skittered across the polished wood floor. Oh God, I cried out, shrinking back in my chair like a frightened child. I made a mess. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Is Tyler coming to help clean it up? Is he late for dinner? The room went silent. The mention of Tyler in the present tense hung in the air. I looked up at them, blinking rapidly. Why isn't he here? It is Tuesday. We always have meatloaf on Tuesday. Did he call? Monica stared at me. A slow, cruel smile spread across her face. It wasn't a smile of pity. It was the smile of someone who just won the lottery. She leaned back in her chair and looked at Beverly. He is worse than we thought, Monica said, speaking about me as if I wasn't even in the room. He doesn't even know what day it is. He thinks Tyler is still alive. Beverly clicked her tongue, feigning sympathy while she dabbed the water off the papers. The stress must have triggered a rapid decline. Dr. Sterling was wrong. He isn't fit to manage anything. Look at him. He can't even hold a cup of water. I stared at my wet hands, letting my lower lip tremble. I am useless, I whispered. I am just a useless old man. I just want to go to sleep. You should rest, Conrad, Monica said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Don't worry about the signature right now. We can do it tomorrow. We will take care of everything. You just rest. She stood up and signaled for Beverly to follow her into the kitchen. I stayed in the chair, staring at the broken glass. I listened to their footsteps fade. As soon as the kitchen door swung shut, I heard them. Did you see that? Monica whispered, her voice giddy with excitement. He is gone. His brain is mush. We don't even need to forge the signature. If we get a doctor to witness him like this, we can get emergency guardianship by the end of the week. We need to make sure he stays this way, Beverly hissed back. Did you put the new dose in his milk? Double Monica replied. He will sleep for 12 hours. By the time he wakes up, he won't know his own name. I sat there, the water soaking into my trousers, a piece of glass near my shoe. They thought I was broken. They thought I was a senile old fool who had wet himself and forgotten his son was dead. Good, I thought, feeling the cold steel of my resolve harden. Let them think I am weak. Let them lower their shields. I stood up slowly, careful to keep my shuffle, and headed toward the stairs. I needed to pour that milk into the planter in my bedroom. I needed to stay awake. Because tonight, the old wolf wasn't sleeping. Tonight, the old wolf was going to start hunting. The moon cast long, skeletal shadows across the floorboards of the master bedroom. I lay there in the dark, fully dressed, under the quilt, clutching my cane like a weapon beneath the sheets. My heart beat a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. Thump, thump, thump. It was the only clock I had left. Downstairs, the grandfather clock chimed 10. I heard the stairs creak. It was the third step from the top. I knew that creak. I had installed that staircase myself 30 years ago. I knew exactly who was coming by the weight of the footfall. It wasn't Monica's sharp, impatient staccato. It was Beverly. Heavier, deliberate. The sound of a woman who felt she owned every inch of the ground she walked on. The doorknob turned slowly. A sliver of hallway light cut across the room, blinding me for a second. Beverly stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the light. In her hands, she held a steaming mug on a small porcelain saucer. "Conrad," she cooed, her voice dripping with a synthetic sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Are you awake, dear?" I let out a low groan and shifted in the bed, making sure my movements were clumsy and uncoordinated. I squinted at her, letting my mouth hang open just a fraction. "Who is it?" I rasped. "Is that you, Martha?" Martha was my first wife, Tyler's mother. She had been dead for 20 years. Calling Beverly by her name was a petty knife twist, but it was also a perfect cover. It sold the dementia. Beverly's posture stiffened. I saw her knuckles turn white on the saucer. "No, Conrad. It is Beverly." "Your wife, oh," I mumbled, sinking back into the pillows. "Beverly." "Right." She walked to the side of the bed. The smell hit me instantly. Warm milk honey, and beneath it, a faint metallic tang. It was the smell of a chemistry set masked by a nursery rhyme. "I brought you something to help you sleep," she said, setting the mug on the nightstand. "You had such a traumatic day. Monica said you were very confused earlier. You need your rest." I stared at the mug. Steam curled off the surface in lazy spirals. "I am not thirsty," I said, turning my head away like a petulant child. "Conrad, drink it," she commanded. Her voice dropped an octave. The sweetness vanished, replaced by the steel tone she used when she was on the phone with her bookie. "The doctor said you need to keep your fluids up, and this will help with the tremors." She reached out and picked up the mug, trying to press it into my hand. The ceramic was hot. I looked at her. I looked into the eyes of the woman I had shared a bed with for 15 years. There was no love there. There wasn't even pity. There was only calculation. She was looking at me like I was a ledger that needed to be balanced. "Help me sit up," I said weakly. She sighed, put the mug down, and grabbed my arm. Her grip was rough. She hauled me up against the headboard. "There," she said, handing me the cup again. "Drink, all of it." I took the mug with both hands, letting them shake violently. Liquid sloshed over the rim, scalding my thumb. I didn't flinch. "Careful, you old fool," she hissed, grabbing a tissue from the box on the nightstand to wipe the spill. "Look what you did to the quilt." As she bent down to scrub at the fabric, her head was turned away from me. It was a matter of seconds. I leaned to my right. Next to the bed stood a large potted ficus tree. Tyler had given it to me for Father's Day 5 years ago. It was a sturdy plant, a survivor. I tipped the mug. The hot white liquid poured silently into the dark soil. I watched it sink into the earth, poisoning the roots of the only living thing in the room besides me. I kept a mouthful of air in my cheek just for the show. Beverly straightened up, tossing the wet tissue into the trash. "Well," she asked, looking at the empty mug in my hand. I swallowed the nothingness in my throat, keeping my lips pressed tight, then let out a wet cough. "Good," I whispered. "Warm." She took the mug from me. A small, satisfied smile played on her lips. It was the smile of an executioner who had just pulled the lever. "Good night, Conrad," she said. "Sleep tight." She turned off the lamp and walked out, closing the door with a soft click. I waited. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. I spat into my handkerchief and wiped my tongue frantically, just in case a drop had touched my lips. I grabbed the bottle of water I kept hidden under the bed seal unbroken and rinsed my mouth, spitting into the trash can. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I threw off the covers and slid out of bed. My knees hit the floor, but I didn't feel the pain. I crawled toward the door, moving silent as a ghost across the carpet. I pressed my ear against the wood. They were in the hallway, just outside my room. "Did he drink it?" Monica whispered. Her voice was sharp, anxious. "Every drop," Beverly replied. I watched him. "Good," Monica said. "How long until it kicks in?" 20 minutes, maybe less," Beverly said. I crushed 3 of the blue pills into it. "That is double what we gave Tyler. His heart is old, Monica. He might not just sleep. He might stop." There was a pause, a silence that felt heavy and thick. "Well," Monica said finally, her voice cold and devoid of any humanity. "If he stops, he stops. It saves us the legal fees for the guardianship hearing. We have the power of attorney paperwork for the funeral arrangements already. If he dies tonight, it is just grief. Old men die of broken hearts all the time." "Exactly," Beverly agreed. "Let's go downstairs. I need a drink." Celebrating is premature, but I feel like we are close. I heard their footsteps retreat down the hall. I stayed on the floor, my forehead pressed against the cold wood of the door. My breathing was ragged. They weren't just trying to sedate me. They were trying to kill me. Tonight. They upped the dose. They knew my heart history. They knew I had a murmur. A double dose of heavy sedatives wasn't a sleep aid. It was a chemical weapon. I looked back at the ficus tree. The soil was damp and dark. By morning, those leaves would be yellow. That tree was taking the bullet for me. I crawled back to this bed, but I didn't get in. I sat on the edge, gripping the mattress. The realization washed over me like ice water. I didn't have days. I didn't have a week to plan a clever legal maneuver. I was living in a slaughterhouse and the butchers were downstairs drinking wine. I needed to move. I needed to get the evidence. I needed to secure the assets. But I couldn't leave the room. If they checked on me and I wasn't in that bed looking comatose, the game was over. I reached for my phone under the pillow. I texted Blackwood, my lawyer. 2 words. Code red. Then I lay back down, pulling the covers up to my chin. I stared at the ceiling, my eyes wide in the darkness. I had to stay awake. If I fell asleep now, I might never wake up. I had to listen for their return. I had to be ready. Because tomorrow, if I was still breathing, I was going to turn this house into a war zone. The morning sun hit the dead yellow leaves of the ficus tree next to my bed, a silent casualty of the war I was fighting. I stared at the withered branches for a long moment, my heart heavy. That tree had been green and vibrant yesterday afternoon. Now it was a dried husk burned from the roots up by the chemical cocktail Beverly had tried to feed me. If I had swallowed that milk, I would be the one turning gray and cold right now. I rubbed my face, feeling the stubble on my chin. I had survived the night, but the day was bringing a new kind of torture. I heard them moving downstairs, the clinking of silverware, the smell of bacon. They were eating breakfast while waiting for the undertaker to come collect the old man who was supposed to have stopped breathing in his sleep. I imagined their disappointment when they heard my footsteps. I forced myself to stand, my joints popping. I put on my robe, leaving it slightly open, disheveled. I took out my false teeth and put them in my pocket. It was a small detail, but it made my face look sunken, my speech slur. It made me look like a corpse that hadn't quite gotten the memo. When I shuffled into the kitchen, the silence was absolute. Beverly dropped a fork. It clattered loudly against her china plate. She looked at me as if she were seeing a ghost. Her face went pale beneath her layers of foundation. "You are awake," she stammered, her eyes darting to Monica. I blinked slowly, looking around the room with a confused, vacant expression. "Is it morning already?" I mumbled my words, whistling through my empty gums. I thought we were going fishing, Tyler." Monica didn't even flinch at the mention of her dead husband. She just stared at me with cold, calculating eyes. She pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. "Sit down," Conrad Beverly said, her voice tight. "We have a visitor coming, an old friend of mine. He wants to see how you are doing." "A friend?" I asked, sinking into a chair and letting my head loll to the side. "I don't have friends. They all died." 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Beverly rushed to answer it. I stayed at the table, picking at a piece of dry toast, crumbling it into dust on the placemat. I heard low voices in the hallway. A man's voice. Smooth. Arrogant. When they walked in, I knew exactly what this was. The man was tall, wearing a suit that cost more than my truck. He carried a leather briefcase and wore wire-rimmed glasses that he adjusted constantly. He didn't look like a friend. He looked like a shark in a silk tie. "Conrad, this is Dr. Kincaid," Beverly said, placing a hand on the man's arm. "He is a specialist. He is here to help you with your memory problems." I looked at him. I let my mouth hang open. "Who?" I asked. Dr. Kincaid sat down across from me. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a notepad and a silver pen. He didn't smile. He looked at me like I was a broken toaster that needed to be thrown out. Monica stood in the corner of the kitchen. She held her phone up the red recording light, blinking like a demonic eye. She was filming. They wanted evidence. They wanted a show. "Good morning, Mr. Wolf," Kincaid said. "I am just going to ask you a few simple questions. Is that all right?" I stared at his tie. It was red. "I like your tie," I said, ignoring his question. "It looks like blood." Kincaid cleared his throat, annoyed. "Mr. Wolf, can you tell me what year it is?" I frowned, scrunching up my face in exaggerated concentration. I looked at the window. I looked at my hands. "It is 1998, I said confidently. "We just finished the deck. Tyler is starting high school in the fall." Monica smirked. I saw her zoom in on my face. "I see," Kincaid said, scribbling on his pad. "And who is the President of the United States?" I laughed. A dry, wheezing sound. "Clinton, of course. Who else would it be?" Beverly let out a dramatic sigh, covering her mouth with her hand, as if she were holding back tears. "Oh, Conrad," she whispered for the camera. "It is worse than I thought." Kincaid leaned forward. He held up a pen. "What is this, Mr. Wolf?" "It is a nail," I stammered. "For the framing." Kincaid nodded, making a check mark. Disoriented, delusional, unable to identify common objects. "Now, Mr. Wolf, look at the woman standing next to me." He pointed to Beverly. "My wife of 15 years. The woman who had poisoned my milk 8 hours ago. The woman who had forged my son's signature and driven him to his grave." "Who is this person?" Kincaid asked. I looked at Beverly. I looked deep into her eyes. I saw the greed there. I saw the malice. And for a second I wanted to scream. I wanted to lunge across the table and wrap my hands around her throat and tell her exactly who she was. She was a thief, a murderer, a monster. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had to be the old fool. I had to be the victim. I had to endure the ultimate humiliation of erasing myself to save my family. I squinted. I leaned in close, smelling her expensive perfume, the scent she bought with the money she stole from Tyler. That is the maid, isn't it?" I whispered loudly. "The one who steals the silverware. I told you to fire her, Martha. She has shifty eyes." The room went dead silent. Beverly's face turned a blotchy red. The insult landed, but the diagnosis landed harder. "He doesn't even know his own wife," Monica said from the corner, her voice thick with feigned sadness. "He thinks she is the help. and he is calling her by his dead wife's name. Kincaid closed his notebook with a snap. It sounded like a gavel banging down. "It is clear, Mrs. Wolfe," he said, turning to Beverly. "Advanced Alzheimer's with paranoid delusions. He is a danger to himself and others. He cannot be left alone. He needs immediate custodial care. I will sign the competency paperwork today." Beverly nodded, wiping a fake tear from her cheek. "Thank you, Doctor. It is just heartbreaking. But we have to do what is best for him." "What is best for him?" Monica echoed, lowering her phone. "We can't let him run the estate in this condition." I sat there crumbling my toast, listening to them sign away my life. The humiliation burned in my gut like acid. I was Conrad Wolfe. I had built half the skyline of this town. People respected me. Men feared me. And now I was sitting here in my own kitchen, smelling like old age and despair, letting these vultures pick my bones clean while I pretended not to notice. "Can I have some ice cream?" I asked into the silence. Monica let out a short, cruel laugh. "Sure, Dad. You can have ice cream. Go sit in the living room and watch cartoons. We have business to discuss." I stood up, shuffling my feet. I walked past Kincaid. "Nice tie," I said, again patting his shoulder with a trembling hand. I made my way to the living room and collapsed into my armchair. I turned on the TV, keeping the volume low. I stared at the screen, but I was listening to the kitchen. "That was perfect," Monica hissed. "Did you get the shot of him calling you the maid?" "I got it," Beverly snapped. "The old bat. I can't wait to dump him in that facility. How fast can we get the order processed?" Kincaid's voice was smooth. "With this video and my affidavit, we can get an emergency hearing tomorrow. You will have full power of attorney by noon. Then you can transfer the assets." "And the fee?" Beverly asked. "50,000 as agreed," Kincaid said. "Cash." I gripped the armrests of my chair. My fingernails dug into the fabric. $50,000. They were paying him with my money to certify that I was insane. I closed my eyes. I forced my breathing to slow. I had to wait. I had to let them think they had won. Tonight they would celebrate. Tonight the guard would be down. And tonight the man they thought was a vegetable was going to become their worst nightmare. I opened my eyes and looked at the picture of Tyler on the mantelpiece. "Just hold on, son," I whispered. "The show is just getting started." The afternoon sun filtered through the heavy velvet drapes of the living room, casting the space in a dim, sepia light that smelled of dust and old secrets. I lay on the leather Chesterfield sofa, my body angled awkwardly, one arm dangling toward the floor, my mouth slightly agape. To anyone passing by, I looked like a man defeated by age and exhaustion, a grandfather taking a nap he might never wake up from. But beneath the facade of the snoring senile invalid, every muscle in my body was coiled tight as a steel spring. I was not sleeping. I was hunting. I had slipped my phone out of my pocket minutes before they entered the room. I set it to record and slid it under the skirt of the sofa right next to the leg of the coffee table. It was a risky move. If they saw it, the game was over. If they found it, I would be dead before sunset. But I had no choice. I needed to hear it. I needed them to say it out loud. I needed the words that would put them behind bars for the rest of their miserable lives. I heard the click of heels on the hardwood floor. Monica. Fast, aggressive steps. Then the slower, heavier tread of Beverly. They entered the living room carrying the scent of gin and expensive perfume. I let out a jagged, wet snore, twitching my leg slightly. It was a nice touch. "He is out cold," Monica said, her voice devoid of even a whisper of empathy. "That double dose really knocked him flat." "Good," Beverly replied, the ice in her glass clinking. "I am sick of looking at him. Every time he shuffles around with that cane, I just want to kick it out from under him. How long do we have to keep up this charade, Monica?" Kincaid signed the papers, but the court date isn't until Thursday. I cannot spend 2 more days wiping his chin and pretending to care about his dead wife. I lay there, forcing my breathing to remain shallow and rhythmic, while inside a fire was raging that threatened to consume me. They were talking about me like I was a stray dog they were waiting to euthanize, but I kept my eyes closed. I focused on the darkness behind my eyelids. "We can't wait until Thursday," Monica said, her voice dropping lower. "I got a call this morning. The mechanic." My heart skipped a beat. This was it. The drip feed of information I had been waiting for. The mechanic. "What does he want?" Beverly snapped. "We paid him." "He wants more," Monica hissed. "He says the police are asking questions about the skid marks. He says the cut on the brake line was clean, but the fluid pattern was weird. He is getting nervous. He says if they trace the tool marks back to his shop, he is going to cut a deal. He wants another 20,000 to disappear to Mexico." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted copper. A clean cut on the brake line. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mechanical failure. It was murder. Calculated, cold-blooded murder. They had hired a man to crawl under my son's car and sever his lifeline. They had sent him driving down that highway, knowing he would never come home. I saw Tyler's face in my mind, smiling at me, holding his son Leo. I saw the wreckage of his car. I wanted to roar. I wanted to leap off the sofa and tear them apart with my bare hands. It took every ounce of discipline I had built over 50 years of construction to stay frozen on that leather cushion. "We don't have 20,000, Beverly said, her voice rising in panic. I tapped out the last of the savings to pay Kincaid. "The credit cards are maxed. If we don't get control of Conrad's accounts within 48 hours, the whole thing collapses. The loan sharks are already calling the house line." "Then we have to accelerate the timeline," Monica said. Her tone was terrifyingly calm. "We can't wait for the court. We can't wait for him to die of natural causes or an overdose. He is too strong. That old man has a heart like an ox. The pills are just making him sleepy. We need something permanent." I lay there listening to them plot my execution. I was the ox. I was the obstacle. "What are you suggesting?" Beverly asked. "The stairs," Monica said. "Simple. Classic. Tragic." "The stairs," Beverly repeated, sounding uncertain. "Tonight," Monica continued. "After dinner, we tell him it is time for bed. You help him up. Halfway up you stumble. Or he stumbles. It is a long flight, Beverly. Oak treads, hard edges, a fall from the top landing. At his age, a broken neck is guaranteed. If not a brain bleed, we'll finish the job the pills started." "But the autopsy," Beverly whispered. Monica laughed. A soft, chilling sound. "What autopsy?" "He is a 71-year-old man with a documented history of dizziness and dementia, confirmed by Dr. Kincaid today. We have the video of him calling you the maid. We have the medical records showing confusion. It will be ruled an accidental fall, a tragedy. We cry at the funeral, we collect the $3 million from Tyler's policy and the estate from Conrad, and we pay off the mechanic. By next week, we are drinking margaritas in Cabo." I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. I hoped they would think it was the fever of a dying man. They weren't just greedy. They were evil. They were going to push me down the stairs in the house I built with my own hands. The stairs where Tyler had learned to walk. The stairs where I had carried Martha up to bed when she was sick. They were going to turn my home into a murder weapon. "Can you do it?" Monica asked. "Can you push him?" Beverly took a long sip of her drink. I heard the swallow. "I lived with him for 15 years, she said, her voice hardening into stone. I washed his clothes. I listened to his boring stories about concrete and rebar. I put up with his obsession with that dead wife of his. Pushing him. Honey, I will enjoy it. I will watch him tumble." My soul turned to ice. There was no love left in the world for me in this house. Only predators. I was alone, but I wasn't helpless. Okay, Monica said. Tonight, 9 p.m. We make sure the house is dark. We say he got up to use the bathroom and got confused. Make sure you wear gloves when you help him just in case he scratches. They finished their drinks. I heard the glasses settle on the coffee table inches from where my phone lay recording their conspiracy. Let's go check the safe again, Beverly said. Maybe he wrote down the combination somewhere else. I want to see those bonds before he dies. I heard them stand up. I heard them walk out of the room, their footsteps fading down the hallway toward my office. I waited until the silence was absolute. Then I opened my eyes. The room was blurry through my tears, but my vision cleared quickly. Rage has a way of sharpening the world. I reached under the sofa and pulled out my phone. I stopped the recording. I had it. I had the confession. I had the plan. I had the name of the mechanic. I had the motive. I sat up slowly, my joints aching from the tension. I looked at the stairs in the foyer. They looked different now. They looked like a gallows, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. They thought they were dealing with a confused old man. They didn't know they were dealing with a man who had survived collapsed trenches and Union riots. I wasn't going to fall down those stairs. I stood up, gripping my cane. I checked the battery on my phone. 40%. Enough. I needed to get out. I needed to meet Blackwood. But I couldn't just walk out the front door. They would see me. I looked at the window. It opened to the side yard behind the rose bushes. It was a tight squeeze, but I could make it. I had to make it. I walked to the window, moving with a speed that would have shocked them. I unlocked the latch. Tonight, there would be a fall, I thought, my jaw setting into a grim line. But it wouldn't be me. I slipped out into the cold evening air, leaving the house of death behind me. I had a lawyer to meet, and I had a trap to set. The mechanic wanted $20,000. I was going to give him something much more valuable. I was going to give him a choice. I moved through the shadows of my own garden, a ghost in my own life, heading toward the tool shed, where I kept my old truck keys hidden. The game had changed. The prey had just become the hunter, and the hunt was on. The neon sign of Louie's Diner buzzed with a rhythmic electric hum that sounded like a dying insect. It was the kind of place Beverly would rather die than set foot in a greasy spoon on the edge of the industrial district, where the coffee tasted like battery acid and the menus were sticky with syrup from 3 years ago. It was the perfect place to plan a war. I pulled my truck into the darkest corner of the lot, parking between a dumpster and a rusted sedan. I checked my phone. No missed calls yet. They were still in the house, probably drinking their second martini, waiting for the clock to strike 9 so they could execute their plan. They thought I was asleep in the room upstairs. They didn't know the bird had flown the coop. I pulled my cap down low and walked inside. The air smelled of fried onions and cigarette smoke that had settled into the vinyl booths decades ago. I scanned the room. There he was, sitting in the back booth, a silhouette against the grimy window. Arthur Blackwood. He wasn't wearing his usual 3-piece Italian suit. He was wearing a faded fishing jacket and a baseball cap. He looked like just another old-timer nursing a cup of joe, which was exactly the point. I slid into the booth opposite him. He didn't look up from his black coffee immediately. He was a man who understood the value of discretion. We had built half of Seattle together, me pouring the concrete and him navigating the zoning laws and union contracts. He was the only man on earth I trusted with my life. "You look like hell, Conrad," he said, finally raising his eyes. His voice was gravel and smoke. "I feel like it," I replied, signaling the waitress to keep walking. "I don't have much time, Arthur. They are planning to kill me tonight." Arthur didn't flinch. He didn't gasp. He just set his mug down with a deliberate clink. "Tonight?" he asked. 9 o'clock, I said. "They are going to stage a fall down the main staircase. They have it all worked out. The autopsy, the insurance, the Grieving Widow Act. They even have a mechanic on the payroll who cut the brake lines on Tyler's car. I saw a flash of pure cold rage in Arthur's eyes. He had known Tyler since he was a boy. He had given Tyler his first legal internship before my son decided to become a teacher. "You have proof?" Arthur asked. I pulled my phone out and slid it across the table. I played the recording from under the sofa. The sound of Monica's voice, calm and calculating, filled the small booth. We listened to them discuss the mechanic. We listened to them debate the best way to snap my neck. We listened to them laugh. When the recording ended, Arthur closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, they were hard as flint. "We go to the police now," he said, reaching for his phone. "We have conspiracy to commit murder. We have confession to homicide. We can have them in cuffs within the hour." "No," I said, placing my hand over his. "Conrad, this isn't a negotiation," Arthur snapped. "They murdered your son. They are actively plotting to murder you. This is not a construction site dispute. This is life and death. If we go to the police now," I said, keeping my voice low and intense, "they will lawyer up. They will claim I am senile, just like Dr. Kincaid certified today. They will say the recording is manipulated or taken out of context. They will throw the mechanic under the bus and claim he acted alone. They have money, Arthur. My money. They will drag this out for years, and while they are out on bail, they will find my grandson." Arthur froze. Grandson. I leaned in closer. Tyler had a son, a 2-year-old boy named Leo. He kept them hidden to protect them from Beverly. If I go to the cops now, Monica will find out about the boy. She will use him. She will hurt him to get to me. I cannot risk that. I need to destroy them completely. I need to strip them of every asset, every dime, every ounce of credibility before the handcuffs go on. I want them broken, Arthur, not just arrested, broken. Arthur looked at me. He saw the resolve in my face. He knew that look. It was the same look I had when we bid on the downtown skyscraper project everyone said was impossible. "What is the play?" he asked. "I need a will," I said. "A new one." "A new will," he repeated, confused. "I need you to draft a last will and testament dated today. I want it to look like I have capitulated. I want a document that leaves everything, the company, the accounts, the properties, the insurance payouts, absolutely everything to Beverly and Monica. I want it to name them as sole beneficiaries and executors. I want it to include a clause that specifically disinherits anyone else who might come forward." Arthur stared at me as if I had finally lost the mind they claimed I had lost. "Conrad, if you sign that document, you are signing your own death warrant," he hissed. "You are giving them the motive on a silver platter. If they have that paper, they don't need to wait for a fall down the stairs. They will put a pillow over your face and call it sleep apnea. You are handing them the keys to the kingdom." "Exactly," I said. "I am giving them exactly what they want." Greed is a powerful blinder, Arthur. Right now, they are desperate. They are rushing. They are making mistakes because they are broke and scared of the loan sharks. If I hand them the empire on a piece of paper, they will pause. They will stop the physical attacks because they will want to do this legally. They will want to parade me in front of a notary. They will want a public transfer of power to legitimize their theft. "It is too risky," Arthur said, shaking his head. "You are betting your life that they are smarter than they are violent." "I am betting on their vanity," I corrected. "Monica doesn't just want the money. She wants the status. She wants to be the queen of society. She wants a coronation, not a crime scene. If I offer to hold a party, a retirement party, where I sign over the company and the assets in front of all their high society friends, they will take the bait. They won't kill me tonight if they think they can own me tomorrow." Arthur rubbed his chin, the stubble rasping against his thumb. He was thinking like a lawyer now, looking for the angles. So we draft a dummy will, he said slowly. No, I said. We draft a real one, a real legal document. But we include a poison pill, a clause buried in the fine print, or better yet, a separate trust document that supersedes the will executed 5 minutes prior. Arthur smiled, a grim, shark-like smile, an irrevocable trust. We transfer the assets into a trust for the benefit of Leo Wolf with you as the trustee. Then you sign the will, leaving your personal estate to them. But your personal estate will be empty. The will governs nothing because everything is already in the trust. Exactly, I said. They get the paper, they get the show, they get the applause. And then when they try to access the accounts, they find out they own nothing but dust. And then we arrest them, Arthur added. Then we arrest them, I agreed. But not before I get the mechanic. I need him, Arthur. I need the man who cut the line. He is the loose end. Monica said he is trying to blackmail them. That means he is desperate too. I plan to catch him tonight, I said. Conrad. No, Arthur said, alarmed. You are 71 years old. You are not a vigilante. Let the police handle the hitman. I stood up. My knees popped, but I felt strong. Stronger than I had in years. They killed my son, Arthur. They poisoned me. They think I am a confused old man who wets himself. I am going to use that. I am going to lure the mechanic to the house. Monica said he wants $20,000. I am going to make sure he comes to collect. How, Arthur asked. I am going to leave the safe open, I said. I am going to go back to that house, crawl back into that bed, and wait. But before I do, I am going to send a text from Monica's phone. I know her passcode. She uses her birthday. I am going to tell the mechanic the money is in the safe and the back door is unlocked. Arthur looked at me with a mixture of horror and admiration. You are going to trap him in the house with you. I am going to trap him with them, I said. Chaos, Arthur. I am going to introduce chaos into their perfect little plan. And while they are dealing with a blackmailer in the living room, I am going to be waiting in the shadows. It is suicide, Arthur said quietly. No, I said, putting my cap back on. It is construction. You have to tear down the old structure before you can build the new one. I am just handling the demolition. I need those papers, Arthur. I need them ready by tomorrow morning. Make them look official. Make them look expensive. Gold leaf bond paper. The works. Arthur sighed, pulling a notepad from his jacket pocket. I will have them. But Conrad, if you don't call me by 8 a.m., I am sending the cavalry. I don't care about your plan. I am sending the SWAT team. Deal, I said. I turned to leave, but Arthur grabbed my arm. Conrad, he said. This grandson. Does he look like Tyler? I felt a lump form in my throat. The image of the little boy in the storage room flashed before my eyes. He has the eyes, Arthur, I whispered. He has the wolf eyes. Arthur nodded and let me go. I walked out of the diner and into the cool night air. The wind had picked up, smelling of rain and asphalt. I checked my watch. 8:15. I had 45 minutes to get back, send the text, and get into position. I climbed into my truck. I wasn't shaking anymore. The fear was gone, burned away by the adrenaline of the hunt. I was going back into the snake pit. But this time I wasn't the mouse. I was the mongoose. I started the engine and drove toward the wealthy suburbs, toward the house that was no longer a home but a battlefield. I had a legacy to save, and God help anyone who stood in my way. The neon lights of the diner faded in my rearview mirror as I turned back onto the quiet, manicured streets of our neighborhood. I had 10 minutes to transition from the mastermind who had just plotted a corporate coup to a broken, hallucinating old man terrified of his own shadow. I pulled the truck over a block away from the house. I turned off the engine and sat in the dark. I needed to look like I had been through hell. I rubbed my eyes hard with my knuckles until they were red and watering. I messed up my hair, pulling strands of gray wildly across my forehead. I untucked my flannel shirt, letting one side hang loose, and undid the top button of my trousers to look disheveled and shrunken. I hyperventilated for 30 seconds, forcing the oxygen out of my blood until my head spun and my hands shook with genuine tremors. I was ready. I didn't park in the driveway. I abandoned the truck on the lawn, the headlights cutting jagged beams across the front porch, illuminating the pristine white columns I had installed myself. I stumbled out of the cab, leaving the door wide open. I let out a scream, a guttural, terrified howl that tore through the polite silence of the suburb. "He is here!" I shrieked, swinging my cane wildly at the empty air. "Get away from me!" I ran toward the front door, tripping over my own feet, scrabbling at the wood like a desperate animal. I pounded on the door with my fist. "Let me in!" I screamed. "He is coming. He is right behind me." The door flew open. Beverly stood there, a glass of wine in her hand, her face a mask of irritation that quickly morphed into confusion. Monica was right behind her phone in hand, probably ready to record another episode for her collection of evidence. "What in God's name are you doing?" Conrad Beverly hissed, looking past me at the neighbors' houses to see if anyone was watching. I pushed past her, knocking into her shoulder, and collapsed onto the foyer rug. I curled into a ball, covering my head with my arms. I rocked back and forth, sobbing. I saw him, Beverly. I saw him on the hood of the truck. His face, oh God, his face was all smashed. He was bleeding black oil. He pointed at me. He said I did it. He said I killed him. Monica stepped closer, the recording light on her phone blinking. "Who, Dad? Who did you see?" "Tyler," I wailed, my voice cracking. "My boy. He is angry. He is haunting me. He says the money is cursed. He says the house is built on bones. He tried to grab the wheel. He tried to crash the truck." I peeked through my fingers. I saw the look on Monica's face. It wasn't fear of a ghost. It was pure, unadulterated opportunity. She looked at Beverly and raised an eyebrow. They weren't seeing a grieving father. They were seeing a mental break so severe it would guarantee them guardianship within 24 hours. "Get him up," Monica whispered. Beverly grabbed my arm and hauled me up. I was dead weight in her hands. She dragged me into the living room and shoved me onto the sofa. I kept my eyes squeezed shut, trembling violently. "I can't stay here," I mumbled, drool pooling at the corner of my mouth. "He is in the walls. I can hear him scratching. He wants to take me with him. Please, Beverly, please help me." "What do you want us to do, Conrad?" Beverly asked, her voice dripping with fake concern, while her eyes remained as cold as a shark's. "Put me away," I begged, grabbing her hands with my sweaty palms. "Put me in the home. The one Dr. Kincaid talked about. The place with the padded walls and the heavy doors. I need to be safe. I need the doctors. I can't handle the ghost." Monica's eyes widened. This was it. This was the golden ticket they had been plotting for. I was asking for the very thing they were trying to force upon me. "We can do that," Dad, Monica said, stepping forward and kneeling so she was eye level with me. "We can get you the help you need. We can take you to the facility tomorrow. But you know the rules. The facility requires asset management. They won't take you unless the finances are secured." "Take it," I screamed, throwing my wallet at her. "Take it all. I don't want the money. The money is why he is dead. Sign it over. I will sign anything. Just get the ghost away from me. I want peace. I just want to sit in a chair and look at the wall. I will give you the company. I will give you the insurance. Just save me." The air in the room changed instantly. It went from tense to electric. I could practically smell their endorphins spiking. They had won. The old man had broken. They didn't have to murder me. They didn't have to push me down the stairs and risk a homicide investigation. I was handing them the keys to the kingdom on a silver platter, begging them to take it. Beverly looked at Monica. A silent conversation passed between them. The murder plan was officially canceled. Why risk prison when you can have everything legally okay. Conrad, Beverly said, her voice soothing now, almost maternal. We will help you. We will call the lawyers in the morning. We will have the papers drawn up. You can sign everything over to us for safekeeping, and then we will take you to the best facility in the state. You will be safe there. Tyler can't get you there. No, I sobbed, shaking my head frantically. Not the morning. Now. Tonight. He is coming back tonight. If I don't sign it away, he is going to strangle me in my sleep. We have to do it now. We can't do it tonight, Dad, Monica said, trying to hide her excitement. The lawyers are asleep. We need a notary. We need witnesses. It has to be official. Then tomorrow, I gasped. But early. And I want people there. I want witnesses. I want everyone to know I gave it away freely, so the ghost knows I don't have it anymore. Invite the partners. Invite the bank manager. Let me sign it in front of God and everyone so Tyler sees I am clean. Monica stood up. She was vibrating with greed. A public signing. A ceremony. It was perfect. It would legitimize everything. No one could ever claim later that they coerced me if I demanded an audience. We can do that, she said. We will organize a small gathering tomorrow evening. A retirement party. You can announce your retirement and sign the transfer of assets at the same time. Then we will drive you straight to the care home. Yes, I whispered, sinking back into the cushions, closing my eyes. A party. A goodbye party. And then I can sleep. Beverly went to the sideboard and poured a glass of brandy. She didn't pour one for me. She poured one for herself and one for Monica. They clinked glasses right over my head. It is for the best, Conrad, Beverly said, taking a long sip. You are doing the right thing. I lay there letting my breathing hitch and shudder, listening to them celebrate their victory. They were already spending the money in their heads. They were redecorating the house. They were buying the tickets to Cabo. They thought they had broken the stallion. They didn't realize they had just opened the gate for the stampede. I need to go to bed, I whispered, struggling to stand up. I need to hide under the covers until the sun comes up. Go ahead, Beverly said dismissively. She didn't offer to help me this time. She didn't need to push me down the stairs anymore. I was already dead to her. I shuffled toward the hallway, dragging my feet. As I reached the stairs, I heard Monica pulling out her phone. I am calling the catering company, she said, and the firm. Tell them to bring the full transfer packet, the deed, the power of attorney, the irrevocable trust assignment. We are doing this. We are finally doing this. I climbed the stairs one painful step at a time. My performance wasn't over. I had to maintain the fear. I had to whimper when the floorboards creaked. I had to look over my shoulder as if a specter were chasing me. But as I reached the landing and turned toward my bedroom, the whimpering stopped in my throat. A cold smile touched my lips in the darkness. They were throwing a party. They were inviting the witnesses. They were setting the stage for their own execution. I walked into my room and locked the door. I didn't turn on the light. I went straight to the closet and pulled out the old shoebox from the top shelf. Inside was my revolver, a .38 Special I hadn't fired in 20 years. I checked the cylinder. Fully loaded. I wasn't going to use it on them. That would be too easy. But the night wasn't over. The mechanic was still out there, and I had sent a text from Monica's phone just before I drove onto the lawn. The old man is asleep. The safe is open. Come get your money. Back door is unlocked. I sat in the dark, the gun heavy in my lap, facing the bedroom door. Downstairs, the champagne was popping. Upstairs, the trap was set. Come on, I whispered to the shadows. Come and get it. The morning sun hit the pristine white siding of the house, making it gleam like a mausoleum. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and high-stakes greed. I shuffled down the stairs, gripping the banister with a hand I forced to tremble, watching the hive of activity below. Monica was the queen bee, buzzing from room to room in a silk robe, her phone pressed to her ear, orchestrating her own coronation. "Yes, chilled champagne by 5, she barked into the receiver, her eyes scanning the living room with a critical glare. "And not the cheap stuff. We have the bank president coming and Judge Miller. This is a retirement celebration, not a funeral. Make it look expensive." She spotted me on the landing. She didn't lower her voice. To her, I was already furniture, an asset to be liquidated, not a man to be respected. "He's up," she said, into the phone, flashing me a dazzling, predatory smile that didn't reach her cold eyes. "He looks peaceful, ready for the transition. We'll see you at 6. She hung up and clapped her hands. "Dad, you're awake. Did you sleep well?" "I had bad dreams," I mumbled, letting my jaw go slack. "Rats, big rats in suits, eating the walls." Monica laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "That's just the medication, Dad. Tonight is going to be wonderful. We're going to celebrate your legacy. All your old friends are coming to wish you well before you go to the retreat." The retreat. Their code name for the warehouse where they planned to dump me once the ink was dry. "I want music," I said, pointing a shaking finger toward the library. "Sinatra, for the signing. I want to do it right." "Of course," Monica said, checking her diamond watch. "The AV team is coming at noon. We're setting up a whole house system so everyone can hear your speech. It's going to be perfect." Perfect. She had just handed me the weapon I needed. I spent the next few hours wandering the house like a ghost, getting in the way just enough to sell the act. I watched Beverly directing the cleaning crew, her face flushed with the intoxication of imminent wealth. She was humming in the house where she had poisoned my milk less than 12 hours ago. At noon, the technicians arrived. I watched them run cables and set up speakers in the living room, the dining hall, and even out on the patio. "Is this connected to everything?" I asked the lead technician, feigning senile wonder. "Even the library?" "Yes, sir," he said patronizingly. "Bluetooth integration. One button, and the whole house hears the music." "Good," I whispered. "Good." I shuffled into my study and locked the door. This was the only room they hadn't violated yet. I moved the heavy oak bookshelf an inch to the left, revealing the hardline input for the house's old intercom system, a system I had installed myself 20 years ago. It overrode the modern Bluetooth setup. It was the master switch. I took the digital recorder from my pocket, the one that held their voices plotting my murder, the mechanic's confession, and the vile things they said about Tyler. I plugged it into the jack using an adapter I had stashed in my desk. I set the volume to maximum. I taped the recorder behind the books so it couldn't be seen. All I had to do was press play on the remote in my pocket, and the polite cocktail music would die. In its place, the truth would scream from every speaker in the house. My phone buzzed. A text from Blackwood. "Papers are drafted. The trap is legal. I'll be there at 6 Argentson. Don't sign anything until I give the signal." I deleted the message and unlocked the door. I put my mask back on the confused, shuffling old man. I walked out into the hallway. "Monica!" I shouted, panic edging into my voice. "I can't find my tie, the gold one. I can't sign the papers without the gold tie." Monica came running up the stairs, her face flushed with the stress of a stage manager whose star actor is missing his costume. "It's okay, Dad, I have it," she soothed, grabbing my arm. "I have it right here. You're going to look like a king." She led me toward the bedroom, her grip tight and possessive. She was dressing me for the slaughter. She didn't know she was tying the noose around her own neck. The grandfather clock in the downstairs hallway chimed 2 in the morning, the deep resonant notes vibrating through the floorboards of the silent house. I sat in the wingback chair in the corner of my bedroom, shrouded in shadow, the heavy velvet curtains drawn tight against the moonlight. My breathing was slow, measured a rhythm I had learned 40 years ago, while walking steel beams 100 feet above the Seattle pavement. Fear is a luxury. Panic is a death sentence. Patience is the only weapon that never jams. I had sent the text from Monica's phone 4 hours ago. Safe is open. Back door unlocked. Old man is out cold. It was the perfect bait for a bottom feeder. A man who cuts brake lines for cash isn't a professional hitman. He is a desperate opportunist. He wouldn't be able to resist an open safe in a wealthy neighborhood. But greed makes men stupid. It makes them careless. And I was banking on his stupidity. I heard the faint click of the back door latch. It was a sound only a builder would notice, the slight groan of a hinge that hadn't been oiled in 6 months. I had left it unlocked, just as I promised. He was inside. My grip tightened on the handle of the framing hammer resting on my lap. It was a 22-ounce Estwing solid steel with a leather grip worn smooth by decades of sweat. I didn't want the gun. A gunshot would wake Beverly and Monica. A gunshot would bring the police too early. I needed answers before I needed handcuffs. I needed to look into the eyes of the man who killed my son. Footsteps. Soft, rubber-soled squeaks on the hardwood. He was bypassing the study where the safe was. Why? The text said the money was in the safe. The footsteps stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Then they started to climb. My heart hammered against my ribs, a cold knot forming in my stomach. He wasn't here for the money. Or at least not just for the money. Monica must have told him I was the problem. If he eliminated me tonight, he probably figured he could extort them for double later. He was coming to finish the job the stairs were supposed to do. I watched the doorknob. It turned slowly, the brass catching a sliver of light from the hallway. The door pushed open. A figure stepped into the room. He was dressed in dark coveralls, a ski mask pulled over his face. He was big, broad-shouldered, but he moved with the heavy, flat-footed gait of a mechanic, not a soldier. In his right hand, he held a knife, a long, serrated blade that glinted in the darkness. He moved toward the bed. He saw the lump under the quilt pillows I had arranged to look like a sleeping body. He raised the knife. I didn't wait. I stood up from the chair. The floorboard creaked under my weight. He spun around, his eyes wide behind the mask holes. He wasn't expecting the senile old man to be awake. He wasn't expecting the prey to be standing in the corner. Who the hell, he hissed. I didn't speak. I swung. I stepped forward and brought the hammer down in a short, controlled arc. I didn't aim for the head. I needed him conscious. I aimed for the wrist holding the knife. There was a sickening crunch of bone meeting steel. The mechanic howled a strangled sound of shock and agony, and the knife clattered to the floor. He doubled over, clutching his shattered wrist. "You broke my arm," he gasped, staggering back. I kicked the knife under the bed. "You are lucky I didn't break your skull," I growled, my voice low and dangerous. He looked at me, realizing his mistake. He saw an old man, yes, but he didn't see the dementia patient Monica had described. He saw a man who had framed houses in freezing rain and hauled concrete until his hands bled. He saw a threat. He roared and charged me, lowering his shoulder to tackle me. He had weight and youth on his side. I had leverage. I sidestepped my bad hip, proton testing with a spike of pain, and hooked his ankle with the curved claw of the hammer. He stumbled, his momentum carrying him forward. As he fell, I drove my knee into his ribs. The air left his lungs in a wet wheeze. He hit the floor hard, face first. Before he could scramble up, I was on him. I pressed the hammer's head against the base of his skull. "Move and you are a vegetable," I whispered. He froze. He was gasping for air, sobbing quietly from the pain in his wrist. "Get up," I ordered, slowly. "Hands behind your back." I pulled a bundle of heavy-duty zip ties from my pocket, the kind we used for HVAC ducting. They were strong enough to hold a struggling man. I cinched his good hand to his broken one. He screamed through his teeth, but I didn't care. The pain was nothing compared to what my son felt when his car went off the road. I marched him out of the room, pressing the hammer into his spine. The house was silent. Beverly and Monica were sleeping the deep, dreamless sleep of the guilty and the intoxicated. We moved down the hall, past the pictures of Tyler, down the stairs, and into the kitchen. I grabbed the keys to the garage from the hook. Inside, I shoved him toward my workbench. "Sit," I commanded, pointing to the metal stool bolted to the floor. He sat, swaying, sweat pouring down his face beneath the mask. I reached out and ripped the wool off his head. He was younger than I expected. Maybe 30. Greasy hair, pockmarked skin, eyes darting around the room like a trapped rat. I recognized him. He worked at the auto shop on 4th Street. I had taken my truck there for oil changes. I had trusted this man with my vehicle. Tyler had trusted him. "I know you," I said, leaning back against the garage door and locking it. "Your name is Riggs." He didn't answer. He just stared at the hammer in my hand. "You cut the brake line," I said. It wasn't a question. "I don't know what you are talking about," he stammered. "I came here to rob the place. The door was open." "Don't lie to me, Riggs," I shouted, slamming the hammer onto the metal workbench. The sound rang out like a gunshot in the confined space. "I have the recording. I have Monica on tape saying she paid you $20,000. I have her saying you wanted more." Riggs went pale. The blood drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. She recorded it," he whispered. "She talks too much," I said, "and she's going to prison. The only question is whether you are going to death row or witness protection." I walked over to the wall where my tools hung in organized rows. I picked up a blowtorch. I didn't light it. I just held it, weighing it in my hand. "My son burned Riggs," I said softly. "The car caught fire after it hit the divider. The autopsy said he was alive when it happened. He felt it." Riggs started to cry. Ugly, snotty tears. I didn't mean for him to burn. It was supposed to be quick. Just a crash. She said he wouldn't feel it. She said he was abusive. She told me he hit her. She said I was saving her. "Lies," I said. "All lies. She killed him for the insurance money, and she hired you to do the dirty work." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "I needed the money. My mom is sick. I have debts." "I don't care about your debts," I snapped. "You took my son. You took a father from his 2-year-old boy. And tonight, you came here to kill me." He shook his head violently. No. Just to scare you. Just to get the money from the safe. You brought a knife," I pointed out. He slumped, defeated. The fight went out of him. He was just a small man in a big hole. "Here's the deal," I said, putting the blowtorch down. "The police are coming tomorrow evening." "Not now, tomorrow. I am throwing a party. A big one. Monica and Beverly are going to sign a confession, though they don't know it yet. I need you there." "There?" he asked, confused. "I need you to walk through that front door when I give the signal. I need you to point the finger. I need you to tell the police exactly what you told me. That Monica hired you. That Beverly paid you. That they planned it all." "If I do that, I go to jail," he whimpered. "You are going to jail either way, son," I said. "But if you help me, I will talk to the district attorney. My lawyer is the best in the state. We can get you a deal. 2nd degree. Maybe manslaughter if you cooperate fully. You do 15 years instead of life. You get out while you are still young enough to walk." Riggs looked at his broken wrist. He looked at the hammer. He looked at the cold, hard reality of his situation. "And if I say no," he asked. I leaned in close. My face was inches from his. I let him see the wolf in my eyes. "Then I leave you here tied to this chair. I go upstairs and I wait for Monica to wake up. And when she comes down and finds you, what do you think she will do? Do you think she will let you live knowing what you know? She will finish what I started. She will kill you and frame me for it. She will say I defended myself against an intruder, and she will get away with it." He shuddered. He knew I was right. Monica was a viper. She would cut his throat without blinking. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay. I will do it. I will testify." I nodded. "Good choice." I grabbed a roll of duct tape. "I am going to tape your mouth now, and your legs. You are going to stay here in the garage until tomorrow night. If you make a sound, if you try to bang on the door, the deal is off." I spent the next 10 minutes securing him. I taped him to the sturdy support beam in the corner behind the stack of winter tires. I gave him a bottle of water with a straw. I checked his circulation. I wasn't a monster. I just needed him compliant. When I was done, I stood back and looked at him. He looked pathetic. A hired killer reduced to a frightened boy in a garage. "One more thing," I said, my hand on the light switch. "Did she tell you to cut the brake line? Or did she tell you to drain the fluid?" He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face again. "She told me to cut it," he said. "She said she wanted it to look like a clean break. She wanted to be sure the fluid was gone before he hit the highway. She drew a diagram, Mr. Wolf. She drew a picture of where to cut." I turned off the light, plunging the garage into darkness. "Sleep tight, Riggs," I said into the blackness. "We have a big day tomorrow." I locked the garage door from the inside and went back into the kitchen. I hung the key back on the hook. My hands were steady now. The rage had settled into a cold, hard purpose. I had the weapon. I had the witness. I had the trap. I climbed the stairs back to my bedroom. The house was quiet. The ghosts were watching. I lay back down on my bed, staring at the ceiling. The sun would be up in 3 hours. I closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. I visualized the party. I visualized the look on Monica's face when the dead man walked in. I visualized the moment I would take back my name. For Tyler, I whispered. For Leo. The old builder was back on the job site, and tomorrow the demolition would begin. The living room smelled of expensive champagne and the heavy cloying scent of lilies that Beverly had ordered to mask the stench of her own moral decay. I stood at the top of the staircase, gripping the banister with a hand I forced to shake violently. Below me the sharks were circling. There were about 40 people crowded into the space I had built with my own sweat and blood. Partners from the construction firm who had been trying to buy me out for years. The bank manager who held the mortgage. Judge Miller sipping scotch by the fireplace, oblivious to the fact that he was witnessing a grand larceny in progress. And there, in the center of it all, were the 2 black widows spinning their web. Monica looked radiant in a charcoal silk dress that was modest enough for a grieving widow, but tight enough to signal she was ready for her next chapter. She was laughing at something the mayor was saying, her hand resting possessively on the stack of legal documents sitting on the antique desk we had moved into the center of the room. Beverly was working the other side of the room, playing the part of the exhausted, devoted caretaker. She dabbed at dry eyes while accepting condolences, her other hand clutching a crystal flute of vintage Dom Perignon. They weren't mourning Tyler. They were celebrating the jackpot. I took a deep, rattling breath and began my descent. I let my foot slip on the second step, just enough to make a noise. The room went silent. 40 pairs of eyes turned upward. I saw pity in some, indifference in others, and pure, unadulterated hunger in the eyes of my family. "There he is," Monica announced, her voice pitching up into that fake nursery school tone she used for the benefit of the audience. "There is the man of the hour. Careful, Dad. Take your time. We are all here for you." She rushed to the bottom of the stairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood like the ticking of a pom-pom. She reached up and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my bicep through the fabric of my suit. It wasn't a supportive grip. It was a vice. She was dragging me toward the desk, toward the signature that would sign away my life. I let her lead me. I shuffled, keeping my head down, muttering nonsense under my breath about the weather and the price of lumber in 1985. I saw Arthur Blackwood standing in the corner near the bookshelf where the recorder was hidden. He was holding a leather folio. His face was stone. He gave me the slightest nod, a movement so imperceptible that only a man looking for a lifeline would have seen it. The trap was set. The legal documents on the table were the ones we had drafted at the diner. They looked real. They felt real. But they were a dead end. "Ladies and gentlemen," Monica said, raising her voice to address the room. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice. As you know, we have had a tragic week. We lost Tyler. And Conrad, well, Conrad has decided that it is time to rest. It is time to let go of the burdens of the business and the estate so he can focus on his health." A murmur of assent went through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Poor old thing." Beverly stepped up beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder. It felt heavy like a yoke. "We just want him to be safe," she said, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. "We want to make sure his legacy is protected. Tonight, Conrad is signing over the stewardship of the Wolf estate to Monica and myself. We will carry the torch for him." She guided me into the chair behind the desk. It was my chair. The leather was molded to my shape, but tonight it felt like an electric chair. The documents were spread out before me. I saw the transfer of the construction firm, the deed to the house, the assignment of the $3 million insurance policy, and right on top the power of attorney that would give them the right to lock me away in a facility and throw away the key. Monica uncapped a pen. It was a Mont Blanc, heavy, black resin with gold trim. Tyler had given it to me when he graduated college. Using it for this was a final petty insult. "Here, Dad," she whispered, pressing the pen into my trembling fingers. "Just sign right here, next to the blue tab. Then you can go upstairs and sleep. You can sleep for a long, long time." I looked at the paper. The letters swam before my eyes, blurring not because of my act, but because of the sheer rage boiling in my veins. I looked at the signature line. It was a straight black line that represented the end of everything I had built. My hand shook violently. The pen tapped against the paper, leaving tiny dots of black ink. Tap, tap, tap. Like a distress code. I can't see the line. I stammered, leaning closer to the desk. "It is moving." "Why is the paper moving?" "It is okay," Conrad Beverly soothed, leaning over my shoulder. Her perfume was suffocating. "Just hold the pen steady. I will guide your hand." She reached down and covered my hand with hers. Her skin was warm, damp with excitement. She started to push my hand, forcing the nib across the paper. I looked up. I looked past the crowd, past the greedy faces of my partners, past the judge who was checking his phone. I looked at the bookshelf. The red light of the recorder adapter was a tiny pinprick in the shadows. Everyone was watching. The silence was thick, heavy with anticipation. They were waiting for the old lion to roll over and die. They were waiting for the money. I looked at Monica. She was biting her lip, her eyes wide, mentally counting the zeros in her bank account. She thought she had won. She thought the old builder was finished. I let the pen hover over the paper for one more second. I felt Beverly's grip tighten, impatient, forceful. "No," I whispered. What Beverly hissed in my ear. I said no, I said louder this time. I pulled my hand back, ripping it from her grasp. The pen flew out of my fingers and skittered across the desk, landing on the floor with a clatter that sounded like a gunshot in the silent room. I sat up straight. I rolled my shoulders back. The slump vanished. The tremors stopped. The vacant, watery look in my eyes hardened into the steel gaze that had stared down union bosses and bank presidents for 40 years. Beverly took a step back, confused. Monica froze her mouth, opening slightly. "Dad." "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice wavering. "Pick up the pen. You are confusing everyone." "I am not confused, Monica," I said. My voice wasn't raspy anymore. It was deep. It was resonant. It was the voice of the man who owned this house. I looked around the room, making eye contact with the judge, with the banker, with the mayor. "I am not signing anything," I announced. "And neither are you." The room erupted in whispers. Monica lunged for the pen, desperate to put it back in my hand, desperate to salvage the moment. But it was too late. The mask was off. The old man was gone. And the wolf had just walked into the room. Here is section 14 of the story, written in English, designed for an engaging AI voiceover, following the established style and content requirements. "I am not signing," I repeated, my voice booming off the vaulted ceilings I had framed with my own hands 30 years ago. I kicked the cane away. It skittered across the floor, hitting Beverly's shin. She gasped, but I didn't look at her. I stood up to my full height, 6 feet 2 inches of ironworker spine that hadn't been this straight in a decade. The tremors in my hands vanished, as if a switch had been flipped. I buttoned my jacket with steady fingers, looking at the room full of vultures who had come to pick at my carcass. "Conrad." "What is wrong with you?" Beverly hissed, her eyes darting to the bank president. "You are making a scene. Sit down. You are having an episode." "I am not having an episode, Beverly," I said, my voice cold and hard as granite. "I am having a moment of clarity, and I think everyone here needs to see it." Monica laughed, a nervous, high-pitched titter. She reached for my arm again. "Okay, Dad. That is enough. The medication is wearing off. Let's get you upstairs." "Don't touch me," I roared. The sound was so loud, so commanding, that Monica flinched back as if I had struck her. The room went deathly still. The ice in the glasses stopped clinking. The whispers died. "You wanted a transfer of power," I said, addressing the crowd. "You came here to see the Wolf estate handed over to the next generation." "Well, I am a man of my word. I am going to give you exactly what you came for. But the beneficiaries have changed." I clapped my hands twice. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The double doors at the far end of the living room, the ones leading to the garden, swung open. The night air rushed in cool and sharp, cutting through the stifling perfume. Sarah walked in. She was wearing a simple blue dress, her head held high, though I could see her trembling slightly. In her arms, she held Leo. My grandson was wearing a tiny suit I had asked Arthur to buy that morning. He looked around the room with wide, curious eyes. Gray eyes, wolf eyes. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Who is that? What is happening?" Monica went pale. She knew. She recognized Sarah instantly from the threats she had made to Tyler. She looked from the child to me, and for the first time the arrogance cracked. I saw genuine fear. "Get her out of here," Monica screeched, pointing a shaking finger at Sarah. "This is a private party. Who let the help in?" "She is not the help, Monica," I said, stepping out from behind the desk. I walked toward Sarah, the crowd parting for me like the Red Sea. I reached out and took Leo into my arms. He felt solid. He felt heavy. He felt like the future. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, turning Leo to face the room, "I would like you to meet someone. This is Leo Tyler Wolf, my grandson, my blood." Beverly dropped her glass. It shattered on the hardwood, splashing champagne onto her expensive shoes. "A child," she whispered. "Tyler didn't have a child." "He did," I said, staring her down. "He just hid him from you. Because he knew what you are. He knew you would try to destroy anything that threatened your access to my money." "That is a lie," Monica shouted, lunging forward. That brat is a bastard. He has no claim. I am the wife. I am the widow. You are the defendant, I corrected her. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the remote control for the AV system. You wanted music for the signing, I said. You wanted everyone to hear. Well, let's hear what you really sound like when you think no one is listening. I pressed the button. The speakers hidden in the ceiling, the ones Monica had insisted on for her perfect party, crackled to life. My voice didn't come out. Instead, the room was filled with the sharp, distinctive voice of Monica recorded in this very room less than 24 hours ago. We can't wait until Thursday. We need something permanent. The stairs. Simple. Classic. Tragic. The crowd gasped. Judge Miller stood up so fast his chair tipped over. Then came Beverly's voice, clear as a bell. Can you push him? Honey, I will enjoy it. I will watch him tumble. The recording continued. It played the part about the mechanic. It played the part about the poison in the milk. It played the part where they laughed about Tyler burning in his car. Monica screamed, a primal animal sound of panic. Turn it off. Turn it off. It is fake. It is AI. He made it up. She ran toward the bookshelf, trying to find the source of the sound, tearing books off the shelves in a frenzy. But the voice kept playing. We pay off the mechanic. 20,000. Disappear to Mexico. Beverly was frozen. She looked at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish on a dock. You were asleep. I watched you drink it. I poured it in the plant, Beverly, I said over the recording. And by the way, you owe me a new ficus. The front door burst open. It wasn't a guest. It was Detective Johnson, flanked by 4 uniformed officers, and walking between them, handcuffed and head bowed, was Riggs, the mechanic. His arm was in a cast. Riggs looked up. He saw Monica. He saw the trap closing. That is her, Riggs yelled, his voice cutting through the recording. That is the woman who paid me. She gave me the cash in an envelope behind the auto shop. She drew the diagram for the brake line. Monica froze. She looked at Riggs. She looked at the police. She looked at the guests, who were now backing away from her with expressions of horror and disgust. Her social standing, her reputation, her future, it all evaporated in a single second. No, she whimpered. No, I didn't. He is lying. Conrad hired him. It is a setup. Detective Johnson stepped forward. Monica Wolf, you are under arrest for the first-degree murder of Tyler Wolf and conspiracy to commit the murder of Conrad Wolf. An officer stepped forward and grabbed Monica's wrists. She fought. She kicked and screamed, her dignity gone, reduced to a cornered rat. You can't touch me. Do you know who I am? I am a wolf. Not anymore, I said calmly. Beverly tried to run. She actually tried to shuffle toward the kitchen door, hoping to slip out the back. But Arthur Blackwood was standing there, blocking her path. Going somewhere, Beverly? He asked, holding up a file folder. The police have the bank records, Beverly. The loans you took out in Tyler's name. The forgery. The embezzlement. It is all here. Beverly collapsed. She didn't faint. Her legs just gave out under the weight of her crimes. She fell to the floor, weeping into her hands. It wasn't the weeping of a grieving mother. It was the weeping of a gambler who had bet the house on a pair of twos and lost everything. The police handcuffed her right there on the Persian rug she had bought with Tyler's stolen money. I stood in the center of the room, holding my grandson, watching them drag the 2 women who had destroyed my family out the door. The flashing lights of the squad cars illuminated the room in bursts of red and blue. The guests were silent, stunned into paralysis. I looked at the bank president. I looked at the partners. The party is over, I said. Get out of my house. They scrambled for the door, desperate to distance themselves from the scandal. Within minutes, the house was empty, save for the police, Arthur, Sarah, and me. I walked over to the desk. I picked up the Mont Blanc pen Monica had tried to force into my hand. I looked at the papers, the transfer of the company, the deed to the house. I tore them in half. Then I tore them again. I looked at Sarah. She was crying, but she was smiling too. She reached out and touched Leo's back. "We did it," she whispered. I looked down at the little boy in my arms. He was asleep, oblivious to the war that had just been fought and won for his future. "Yes," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "We did it." I walked over to the window and looked out at the police cars driving away. I watched Monica and Beverly disappear into the night, heading toward a cell where they would spend the rest of their lives. I wasn't a senile old man. I wasn't a victim. I was Conrad Wolf. I had rebuilt my world from the ashes of my son's pyre. And as I held the next generation in my arms, I knew that the foundation was strong. The wolves were gone. The wolf remained. The red taillights of the police cruisers faded into the darkness at the end of the street, taking the toxicity that had poisoned my home for years along with them. I did not watch them go. They were debris rubble cleared from a job site, and I had never been a man who stared at the dumpsters. I turned back to the room. It was a wreck. Champagne stained the rugs, broken glass glittered near the desk, and the air still held the faint, sour smell of fear. But for the first time since Tyler died, the house felt clean. It felt like mine again. Arthur Blackwood snapped his briefcase shut. The sound was final, satisfying. He walked over to me, stepping over the spot where Beverly had collapsed. "I will handle the arraignment in the morning. Conrad," he said, his voice low. "I will make sure bail is denied. Flight risk, witness intimidation, the works. They will not see the sun without bars in front of it for a very long time." "Do it," I said. "And Arthur, start the eviction process for the rest of their things. I want every dress, every shoe, every bottle of that damn perfume out of this house by noon tomorrow. Burn it if you have to. I want this place stripped to the studs." Arthur nodded. He looked at the baby in my arms. "You did good, old friend. You played the fool so well you almost scared me." "I wasn't playing," I said, looking down at Leo. "I was fighting." Arthur left, closing the heavy oak door behind him. The lock clicked. We were safe. I looked at Sarah. She was sitting on the edge of the sofa, her shoulders slumped, the adrenaline leaving her body. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were bright. She wasn't looking at the luxury around her. She was looking at me. "What happens now?" she asked softly. "Now we build," I said. I shifted Leo to my hip. He was sleeping soundly, his small hand clutching the lapel of my suit jacket. He didn't know about the murder or the theft or the betrayal. He just knew he was being held. "You and Leo are staying here," I told her. "Not in the guest room. Pick a room. Any room. This is his house now. I am just the caretaker." "But the scandal," she whispered. "The neighbors. The news." "Let them talk," I said. "I built this town. I can weather a storm." I walked to the window and looked out at the empty street. The moon was high and bright. I caught my reflection in the glass. I didn't see a 71-year-old man with a bad hip and a broken heart. I saw a survivor. I saw the man who had raised a good son even if I couldn't save him. They thought they could prey on the weak. They thought they could circle the wounded animal and tear him apart. They forgot that the oldest wolf in the pack isn't the leader because he is the fastest. He is the leader because he is the smartest. He is the leader because he knows when to bite. I looked down at my grandson one last time. I brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. "Sleep well, Leo," I whispered. "No one is ever going to hurt you. Not while I am breathing." I turned away from the window and walked into the heart of my home. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was heavy with promise. The war was over. The wolf was still standing. And tomorrow I had a lot of work to do. They looked at my gray hair and saw a victim. They should have seen a survivor. My family's fatal mistake was believing that age strips a man of his teeth. It doesn't. It just teaches him exactly when to bite. Greed is a blinding fog that makes predators careless, leading them straight into traps set by the very prey they sought to devour. I learned today that blood doesn't make a family, loyalty does. I didn't destroy them for revenge. I did it to clear the ground for something better. True power isn't about controlling an empire. It's about protecting the future. If you believe justice was served today, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, would you have destroyed them like I did or shown mercy?